The twin suns of Velmore hung bright in the sky as the great trade market buzzed with life. Hundreds of species from all over the galaxy walked through the wide streets, speaking in many languages, trading goods, and showing off their strange machines. Jake Carter, a human mechanic, stood at the corner of a metal booth. He was tall, wearing a dusty jacket, brown boots, and carried a tool belt full of gadgets. Jake had been working on ships for years, fixing engines and repairing broken parts. But today, he was not working. He had taken the day off to walk through the market and enjoy some food. He bit into a spicy alien fruit and smiled. "Not bad," he said to himself. As he walked past a stall selling floating orbs, Jake's eyes caught something strange. A small figure, about 2 feet tall, was standing. In the middle of the road, it was a child, clearly alien. Its skin was soft blue, and its big golden eyes were filled with tears. It wore a long white robe, but it was dirty and torn. The child looked around, confused and scared. Jake stopped. No one else was helping. Aliens walked past the child without looking. Some frowned, others ignored him completely. Jake stepped forward slowly. "Hey there, little one," he said softly. "Are you lost?" The child looked up at him, his lip trembling. He made a soft sound that didn't match any language Jake knew. Jake knelt down, reaching into his pocket and pulling out his universal translator. He pressed a button and held it close to the child. The translator clicked, buzzed, and then spoke in a soft, robotic voice. "Help. Mama. Gone. Scared." Jake's heart sank. "It's okay. I'm going to help you." He took off his jacket and gently wrapped it around the child. "You're safe now." The child clung to Jake's shirt. He had no shoes. His hands were shaking. Jake looked around. "Where are the security patrols?" he asked. He waved to a nearby merchant. "Hey, this kid is lost. Can you call someone?" The merchant, a slim alien with long neck and silver skin, frowned. "Not my problem, human. Stay out of it." Jake's jaw tightened. "Fine. I'll handle it myself." He lifted the child into his arms. "Don't worry, buddy. We'll find your mom." The translator buzzed again. "Jaka?" Jake blinked. "Jaka? Is that what you're calling me?" The child nodded slowly, wiping his tears. Jake smiled a little. "All right then, Jaka it is." Jake made his way toward the local security station. The tall towers of the station glowed blue. Officers wearing black armor stood at the front scanning crowds. As Jake stepped forward with the child, 3 guards immediately raised their weapons. "Halt!" one shouted. "Put the child down!" Jake raised his hands. "He's lost! I found him alone in the market!" "He is not yours to carry, human," the guard barked. "Drop him now!" The child screamed in fear and buried his face in Jake's chest. Jake frowned. "He's scared. I'm just trying to help." One of the guards tapped something on his wrist. Suddenly, a loud voice came from his communicator. "Be advised. Royal alert. Prince Nalu of House Zarnathi is missing. All units search and report." Jake's eyes widened. "Wait! This is Prince Nalu?" The guards all froze. One of them shouted into his communicator. "We've found him! A human is holding him!" The next moment, more guards appeared. 5, 10. They were surrounding Jake now, aiming their weapons. Jake looked down at the child. "So, you're a prince, huh?" The child nodded softly. The guards stepped closer. Jake's instincts kicked, and something was wrong. "Why would the guards react so aggressively if they truly wanted to help?" he whispered to the translator. "Ask him. Did one of these guards hurt him?" The translator clicked. The child looked around, then slowly nodded. Jake's eyes narrowed. "Got it." With a sudden move, Jake turned and ran. The guards shouted and opened fire, but only stun rounds. Blue beams flew through the air as Jake ducked between market stalls, holding the prince tightly. "Hold on, little buddy." Jake shouted. He slid under a metal table, jumped over a cart, and dashed through tight alleys between shops. People shouted. Some ran, others just stared. The prince cried, but held onto Jake's neck tightly. Jake tapped his wrist and opened a call. "Rex, I need help! Emergency!" A voice crackled in his ear. "What did you do this time?" "Meet me at the old junkyard. Now!" Jake reached the junkyard after 15 minutes of running and hiding. His friend Rex, a thick-skinned alien with 4 arms and a love for broken things, was waiting near a pile of crashed ships. Rex saw the child and gasped. "Is that—" Jake nodded. "Yeah, the missing prince. And someone's trying to take him." Rex pulled open a large metal crate and waved. "In here!" Jake jumped in, holding Nalu close. Rex closed the lid behind them. Inside the crate, Jake sat on the floor, breathing hard. The prince was shaking. Jake gave him some water and a sweet energy bar. "Eat up. You're safe for now." The translator buzzed softly. "Thank you, Jaka," Jake smiled. "No problem, kid." Rex opened a small screen. "You won't believe this. The Empress's guards are saying you kidnapped him. There's a bounty on your head." Jake's face turned serious. "But I saved him." "They don't care. Someone up high wants this kid gone." Jake looked at the prince, who was now falling, asleep in his arms. "I need to get him to his mother. Can you help?" Rex sighed. "You're crazy, human." Jake grinned. "Yeah, but you like crazy." Later that night, the junkyard was quiet. Jake laid the prince on a soft pile of cloth. The little one snored softly. Jake sat nearby, thinking. "This isn't just a lost child's story," he whispered to himself. "Someone tried to harm him, and now they want me dead too." He looked at the sleeping prince. "I can't give you to the wrong hands. I have to take you to your mom myself." He picked up a data pad and started mapping the safest path to the Royal Tower, the heart of Zarnathi rule, deep in the capital zone. It would be dangerous. He'd have to pass through bad places. But Jake had no choice. He looked at the stars outside the junkyard walls. "You've got a big future, little prince, and I'm going to make sure you live to see it." The night was dark over the junkyard, but the stars above still shined bright. Inside a broken cargo ship, Jake Carter sat beside little Prince Nalu, who was now fast asleep under a warm blanket. The alien toddler's breathing was soft and calm. Jake didn't sleep. He was busy fixing an old transport bike. It was dusty and covered in rust, but its core was still working. With a few tools and some new wires, he could get it running. "Just hold on, little guy," Jake whispered. "We'll get you home soon." Suddenly, Rex ran into the ship, breathing hard. "Jake, you need to leave, now!" Jake stood up quickly. "What happened?" "They found you," Rex said. "Scanners picked up a royal signal from the prince's bracelet. Someone's tracking it." Jake looked at the glowing bracelet on Nalu's wrist. "That explains it. They're coming with drones and guards," Rex warned. "Too many. You can't fight them all." Jake nodded. "Then I won't fight. I'll run." He picked up Nalu, who woke up and rubbed his eyes. "Jaka?" Jake smiled. "Time to go, buddy." Within minutes, Jake was on the transport bike, riding fast through the back alleys of Velmore. The wind hit his face, and the prince held onto him tightly. Drones buzzed in the sky. Loudspeakers shouted, "Attention! The human Jake Carter is wanted for royal kidnapping. Turn him in and earn a reward," Jake growled. "They really want to make me the bad guy." He turned down a narrow tunnel, using his memory of the city's old routes. Long ago, he had helped build power lines through these passages. Now, they helped him escape. Behind him, guards on hoverbikes followed. Red lights flashed. Sirens screamed. Jake pushed the bike faster. "Hold on, Nalu!" The bike jumped over a broken rail and slid through sparks. Jake reached into his bag, pulled out a smoke capsule, and dropped it behind him. Smoke filled the tunnel, blinding the guards. One of them crashed into a wall. Another shouted, "He's heading to the slums!" Jake reached the edge of the lower city. This was the Shadewalk District, a dangerous place. Most people avoided it, but Jake had been here before. He knew some faces, some friends. He parked the bike and entered a quiet building with flickering lights. An old alien woman looked up from behind a counter. She had 6 eyes and long fingers. "Jake Carter," she said in a calm voice. "Trouble follows you like a shadow." Jake nodded. "I need a place to hide, just for a few hours." She looked at the prince. Her eyes widened. "Is that—" Jake didn't answer. The woman sighed and opened a door. "Go, but don't stay too long." Eyes are everywhere. Inside a small room, Jake laid Nalu down on a soft bed. The child was tired. He hadn't cried, but Jake knew he was scared. Jake sat beside him. "I know this is scary, Nalu, but I won't let them hurt you, I promise." The translator buzzed. "Jaka, brave," Jake smiled. "Not brave, just doing what's right." Suddenly, a message came through Jake's communicator. It was Rex's voice. "Jake, bad news. One of the guards you escaped from, he's not just a soldier. He's Commander Thalos, and he's part of the royal family. He wants the throne." Jake frowned. "So Thalos is trying to get rid of Nalu?" "Yes," Rex replied. "If the prince disappears, Thalos becomes the next ruler, and now he's blaming you to cover his plan." Jake looked at the sleeping child. He chose the wrong kid to mess with. The next morning, Jake left the slums and began the long journey. Toward the Royal Tower, far in the city center, he couldn't use public transport. His face was everywhere now. So he walked through secret paths, hidden alleys, and backdoor tunnels. Every step was dangerous. At one point, Jake passed through a marketplace where a large crowd had gathered. A news screen showed his face. "This human is armed and dangerous. Prince Nalu is still missing. If you see him, report at once." Jake pulled his hood lower and kept moving. He entered a small shop and saw a blind alien sitting near a dusty wall. The old alien turned his head as Jake entered. "I can't see you," he said, "but I smell oil, engine grease, and fear." Jake replied, "I need a guide. Someone who knows the underground roads." The blind alien smiled. "And what will you give in return?" Jake looked down. "Hope." The alien laughed. "That's rare around here. Follow me." For the next few hours, Jake and the blind alien walked through old train tunnels and service routes. Nalu stayed close to Jake's side, holding his hand tightly. They passed through dark places, rats, rust, broken lights. But the alien knew. Every turn, every step. "You're lucky," he said. "Not many would risk this for a child." Jake replied, "He's not just a child. He's someone who needs help." The blind alien stopped and faced Jake. "You are a strange kind of human." Jake smiled. "You say that like it's a bad thing?" The alien laughed again. By nightfall, they reached the Green Line border, the final gate before entering the Royal District. It was guarded, heavily. Jake hid behind a broken wall and looked. Through his scanner. 4 guards, 2 drones, no open path. The blind alien handed Jake a small device. "Use this. It creates a 30-second blackout in their system, but only once." Jake took it. "Thank you. You didn't have to help." "I help who I choose," the alien said. "And today, I choose the one who protects children." Jake nodded and shook his hand. "Stay safe." He turned to Nalu. "You ready, little prince?" The translator buzzed. "Jaka ready, Nalu ready." Jake pressed the button. The gate lights flickered and shut down. He ran. Guards shouted. Drones fell. Jake sprinted across the open ground, holding Nalu close. A few energy blasts missed him by inches, but they made it through the gate. Alarms rang behind them, but Jake didn't stop. He was getting close now. The Royal Tower stood tall in the distance, shining like a beacon in the night. Jake ducked into a quiet alley near the tower. His chest was rising fast, sweat on his forehead. Nalu was still safe. Suddenly, a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was a tall man in dark armor, Commander Thalos. Well done, human, he said with a cold smile. You've brought the prince to me. Jake stood firm. You're not taking him. Thalos stepped closer. Do you really think the Empress will trust you? A dirty mechanic? A human? Jake replied, She'll trust the one who saved her son. Thalos laughed. No one will believe you. Once I take the prince, I'll finish my story. Heroic commander saves the child, and the traitor dies. Jake's hand moved slowly to his belt. You talk too much! Thalos raised his blaster. Jake threw a flash bomb. Boom! Light exploded. Jake grabbed Nalu and ran. He entered a hidden door near the tower's base, an old service entrance. He had fixed it years ago, and the code still worked. Inside, the halls were quiet. Golden walls, soft lights. Guards walked nearby, but Jake stayed hidden in shadows. Finally, he reached a chamber. A tall female alien sat, alone on a floating chair. Her long robes shimmered like silver fire. Her eyes were filled with sadness. It was the Empress of Zarnathi. Jake stepped forward, holding Nalu. Your Majesty, he said, I believe this belongs to you. The Empress turned. Her eyes went wide. Her lips trembled. Nalu? The child ran to her, crying out. She knelt and pulled him close, tears running down her cheeks. My son. My baby. Jake stepped back. Quietly, the Empress looked up at him. Who are you? Jake smiled. Just a human, just a mechanic, but I couldn't leave him behind. The royal chamber was silent, except for the soft sounds of Prince Nalu's crying. The Empress held him tightly, pressing her forehead against his. Her silver robe shimmered with emotion, and her long fingers gently stroked the back of the child's. Head Jake Carter stood at a distance, quiet and calm, watching the moment between mother and son. He had gone through everything, gunfire, drones, bounty hunters, and dark alleys, just to bring this little one back. And now, seeing them reunited, made it all worth it. The Empress finally looked up. You brought my son back, she whispered, her voice soft but strong. No one else could, but you did. Jake nodded slowly. He found me. I just kept my promise. The Empress stood, still holding Nalu. Her tall figure looked powerful and graceful. What is your name, human? Jake Carter. Mechanic. From Earth, he replied. She stepped closer. Jake Carter, you saved the blood of Zarnathi. That is no small thing. Jake smiled. I didn't do it for a reward. Just did what was right. But before anything more could be said, the chamber doors opened. A guard rushed in, his face full of fear. Your Majesty, Commander Thalos is outside the tower. He claims the child is under human control. He wants the human arrested. Jake sighed. He's still after me. The Empress's eyes narrowed. I had my doubts, but now I see clearly. She turned to the guard. Delay Thalos. Tell him I am in mourning and not to be disturbed. The guard bowed and left. She looked back at Jake. He will not stop. He wants the throne. Jake nodded. Yeah, I figured that out already. The Empress paced slowly. If Thalos gets to the council first, he will twist the story. He will say, you kidnapped my son. He will claim I was too weak to lead. The royal laws will force me to step down. Jake crossed his arms. Then we need to prove the truth before he does. She looked at him seriously. Will you help me? Jake raised a brow. I'm just a mechanic. She shook her head. No, you are more. You are Jaka to my son. He trusts you, and now... So do I. Jake sighed. Then let's make this right. That night, Jake left the royal tower with a secret message crystal hidden in his jacket. The Empress had recorded a personal message for the Galactic Council, telling the full truth, how her son had been taken, how Jake had returned him, and how Thalos had betrayed the crown. Jake's new task was clear. Get this message to the council. citadel, a floating fortress above the skies of Velmore. But Thalos was already spreading lies. Every screen in the city now showed Jake's face. Every guard had orders to capture him. And the worst part? The path to the citadel was blocked. The main gates were locked down, and only council-approved ships could enter the airspace. Jake needed help. He returned to the lower city and entered a hidden bar called the Molten Gear. Inside, smoke filled the air and strange music played. Rough aliens sat at metal tables drinking glowing liquids. At the back, a tall woman with robotic arms leaned against the wall. Her name was Vexa, a bay. "Smuggler and old friend, Jake," she said with a smirk. "You're all over the news." Jake sat across from her. "I need a ride." "Where to?" "Council Citadel." She laughed. "That's locked tighter than a star beast's jaws. I've got a royal message that will break Thalos's..." "Lies." Vexa stared at him. "You're serious?" Jake nodded. "Dead serious." She looked around. "All right, I know a way, but it's not easy." Jake grinned. "Easy was never my style." Vexa took Jake to an old military hangar on the city's edge. Inside was her personal ship, the Star Ghost. It was small, fast, and illegal. The plan was simple: fly low under the radar, enter through the old vent systems, and deliver the crystal straight to the council's main hall. But first they had to pass through the storm belt, a dangerous sky zone filled with lightning storms and magnetic fields. Normal ships avoided it. But the Star Ghost was built for it. They climbed into the ship, and Vexa fired the engines. "Ready?" she asked. Jake held the crystal tight. "Let's fly." The ship lifted off, and the city lights disappeared below them. As they entered the storm belt, everything shook. Lightning cracked around them. The controls sparked. Alarms screamed. "Hold tight!" Vexa shouted. The ship rolled and dipped. One engine caught fire. Jake rushed to the back and used his tools to fix the coolant lines. "Almost got it," he yelled. The fire went out and the ship steadied. They pushed through the final wave of storm clouds and broke into clear sky. Ahead of them, floating above the planet, was the Council Citadel, a giant space station shaped like a ring with glowing lights and golden towers. Jake's heart beat faster. "That's it," he said. "Now or never." Vexa flew close to the lower ring and stopped beside a hidden maintenance hatch. Jake climbed out with a small oxygen mask and moved carefully through the narrow tunnel. Inside the Citadel, everything was clean and quiet. He used his old engineering codes to move through the halls. The Empress had given him access, only for 1 hour. He reached the council hall, where leaders from many alien races were sitting around a large table. Before the guards could stop him, Jake stepped forward and raised the crystal. "Play this," he shouted. "This is from the Empress herself." The crystal floated in the air and activated. The Empress's voice echoed across the room. She told the whole story, how Thalos had plotted against her, how her son had vanished, and how a human saved him. The room was silent. Then murmurs began. Council members looked at each other. Some gasped, others stood in shock. A tall alien leader spoke. "This changes everything." Guards rushed into the room, but the council leader raised a hand. "Let him be. He speaks the truth." Moments later, a screen showed Commander Thalos giving a false speech outside the tower. But now, his lies were broken. The council issued an immediate order. Thalos was to be arrested. Jake sighed with relief. He looked out the Citadel window at the stars. "We did it, Nalu," he whispered. Back on Velmore, Thalos tried to run, but royal guards, now loyal to the Empress, caught him. He was taken away in chains. The Empress held a special broadcast showing the truth to the whole realm. She told how Jake Carter, a simple human mechanic, had saved her son and stopped a traitor. A few days later, in the royal court, a grand ceremony took place. Alien nobles, council leaders, and galactic travelers gathered to witness it. Jake stood in front of them all, wearing a new robe given by the Empress. Prince Nalu sat on a small throne beside his mother, smiling brightly. The Empress raised her voice. Jake Carter, Earthborn, you have proven that true honor comes not from race or blood or power, but from the heart. You risked your life to save my son when no one else dared, and for that, we name you, trusted guardian of the realm. The crowd cheered. Jake bowed. Then, Nalu ran to him and hugged him tightly. "Jaka," he said, "stay with us?" Jake smiled. "For a little while, yeah." For the first time in many cycles, the royal palace of Velmore was filled with true peace. The golden towers sparkled under the twin suns. The royal banners danced in the soft wind. The air smelled of fresh blossoms and clean hope. Jake Carter, now wearing a long blue cloak, walked through the palace garden. Behind him, 2 royal guards followed silently. He had grown used to this new life, though it still felt strange. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was now the trusted guardian of the realm, a human hero in a world full of aliens. But Jake didn't care much for titles. He still wore his tool belt under the robe. And he still fixed broken things when no one was looking. As he stepped into the royal playroom, a loud voice shouted, "Jaka!" Little Prince Nalu ran across the room and jumped into Jake's arms. The boy laughed happily as Jake lifted him. "High into the air. You've grown heavier," Jake said with a grin. The translator buzzed. "Jaka strong," Jake laughed. "You're not wrong." The Empress stood nearby, watching the moment with a warm smile. She wore a soft white gown today, her silver crown resting lightly on her head. "You are good with him," she said. Jake looked at her. "He's like family now." She nodded. "He thinks of you that way too. He keeps drawing pictures of you, fixing spaceships." Jake chuckled. "Well, I do love ships." The Empress turned serious. "But now, we must speak of the future." Jake placed Nalu gently on the floor. The child sat beside a pile of glowing toys. "What kind of future?" Jake asked. The Empress motioned for him to follow her into the private chamber. Inside the chamber, soft lights glowed from the walls. There was no noise here, only peace. The Empress sat on a low seat. Jake remained standing. "Thalos is gone," she said. "Banished, but the council still watches." Jake nodded. "They don't trust easy." "They never did," she replied, "especially not with humans." Jake looked her in the eyes. "So what happens next?" She leaned forward. "The galaxy changes slowly, but change begins with leaders, and trust begins with people like you." Jake raised a brow. "I'm not a leader. But you have heart," she said, "and heart is what the realm needs." She stood and placed a small, glowing gem in his hand. It was shaped like a star, warm to the touch. "This is the seal of unity. It has not been given to anyone outside the royal bloodline. Until now." Jake looked at the gem. "Why me?" she replied. "Because you saved what was most important. You protected the innocent. You didn't care about power or fame. You acted when no one else did. That makes you worthy." Jake stared at the gem for a long moment, then he placed it in his pocket. "All right, but I still want to fix things, not just politics, actual things, like engines." The Empress smiled. "You can do both." Later that day, a meeting was held in the High Council chamber. Leaders from across the realm arrived. Aliens of all shapes, sizes, and colors. Some flew in, some rolled, others walked with great pride. Jake stood beside the Empress at the front of the hall. Nalu sat on a small throne, watching with wide eyes. One by one, the leaders spoke. The tall, feathered representative from the Avari clans stepped forward. "We once thought humans were simple creatures, but this one changed our view." The crystal-skinned voice of the Caldrex order echoed in the room. "He saved a prince, risked his life, and didn't ask for gold or reward. The thick-shelled leader of the Rongar tribes raised his hammer staff. Let his name be written in the great stories of the stars. Cheers followed. Light beams danced across the ceiling. Nalu clapped excitedly. Then the Empress raised her hand. The hall grew quiet. I, Empress Virelia of Zarnathi, declare this day a new beginning, a day where humans are no longer seen as outsiders, a day where one man reminded us what true loyalty means. She turned to Jake. Come forward. Jake stepped up. The Empress lifted a thin chain and placed it around his neck. At the center of the chain was a round medallion, marked with the royal symbol and a rising star. Jake Carter of Earth, she said clearly. You are now a galactic friend of the throne. Wherever you walk in peace. Whatever you say, you speak with respect. You are trusted across every world in this realm. The crowd cheered again. Jake only said one thing. Thanks, but I'm still just a mechanic. That made many in the hall laugh. Later, Jake sat on the palace balcony, alone. The stars above looked brighter now. Nalu walked out and sat beside him. Jaka sad? Jake smiled. No, just thinking. Thinking what? Thinking how strange life is. One moment, I'm fixing ship engines. Next moment, I'm part of a royal family. Nalu giggled. You fixed my heart. Jake looked at him. What do you mean? The translator buzzed. When I was lost, my heart was broken, but Jaka made it better. Jake felt his throat tighten. He placed a hand on Nalu's shoulder. You fixed mine too, kid. They both looked up at the stars. But not everyone in the galaxy was happy about Jake's rise. In a cold, distant moon, a shadowy figure watched the council's speech through a cracked monitor. He had sharp teeth and dark armor. His name was General Korvac, a powerful warlord from a rival empire. So, the humans are rising, he growled. Another alien bowed beside him. The council trusts him. Korvac narrowed his eyes. Then we'll use that. He turned to his officers. Prepare the spies. We'll learn what this human is planning, and then we strike where it hurts. Back on Velmore, Jake walked into the royal workshop. It was filled with broken tools, engines, and dusty parts. He smiled. Now this feels like home. He picked up a wrench and began working on an old ship core. The noise, the smell, the sparks. It was all familiar. The Empress entered the room quietly. Still working? Jake looked up. Always, she walked over. You know, many would ask for ship's power or even land after being honored. You ask for old machines. Jake grinned. Machines don't lie. They either work or they don't. I like that, she nodded. Still, your honesty is rare. She paused for a moment. Jake, would you consider staying longer? Not as a hero, not even as a guardian, just as part of the family? Jake thought for a moment. He looked around the workshop, then at the sky through the open window. He saw the planet, the stars, and the people he had come to protect. Then he looked at Nalu's small drawing pinned on the wall. It showed Jake, with a cape and a wrench, standing beside a smiling alien boy. He smiled. I think I already am. The royal palace of Zarnathi sparkled under the twin suns. Its towers rose like crystal spears into the sky. The great hall was filled with thousands of aliens from every part of the realm. Their colorful robes and glowing symbols made the room look like a field of living stars, and in the center of it all stood a human. Jake Carter, the simple mechanic from Earth, stood straight but nervous. He wore clean white robes with a golden sash across his shoulder. Around his neck was the pendant Prince Nalu had given him, a symbol of royal trust. The Empress of Zarnathi stepped forward. Her tall figure shimmered in blue and silver light. Her crown of living vines moved gently as if it felt her joy. Jake Carter, the Empress said, her voice calm and clear, You are not from our world. You do not carry royal blood. But today, you are more than a hero. You are family." The entire hall was silent. Everyone listened with full attention. "You returned my son to me," she continued. "You protected him with your life, even when you had nothing to gain. You showed kindness, courage, and love. These are the traits of a true protector." Jake didn't know what to say. He just gave a small bow. The Empress raised a hand and 2 guards stepped forward. They carried a shining metal chest. Inside it was a long white cloak with a glowing silver edge. On the back it had a symbol, a hand, holding a star. "This is the Cloak of Heartbinders," she said. "Only 3 beings in our history have earned it. Today, you are the 4th. Gasps filled the hall. Many aliens placed their hands on their chests, a sign of deep respect in Zarnathi culture. Jake slowly stepped forward and allowed the Empress to place the cloak on his shoulders. It felt light, warm, and alive. A deep voice echoed in the room. "Long live the Heartbinder!" The crowd repeated it again and again. Cheers rose. Some cried, others clapped with glowing palms. Lights danced across the high ceiling. Jake looked at the Empress. She smiled at him, then looked down. Prince Nalu stood beside her, holding his tiny hands high in the air. "Jaka!" the prince shouted happily. Jake laughed and knelt down. The toddler jumped into his arms, hugging him tightly. Later that evening, Jake stood on a balcony that overlooked the palace gardens. Floating lanterns lit the night sky, drifting like fireflies. "You look uncomfortable," a voice said from behind. Jake turned to see Commander Ryle, one of the palace's top guards. She was tall, with red armor and sharp green eyes. At first, she didn't trust Jake, but now her tone was much warmer. "I'm not used to all this," Jake said honestly. "Where I come from, I fix broken engines, not wear glowing cloaks." Ryle chuckled. "Sometimes, the best leaders are those who never wanted power." Jake looked at the stars. "I just wanted to help that little guy." "And because you did," Ryle replied, "peace is returning to the realm. The traitors are gone. The Empress has her son, and for the first time in years, the people trust again." Jake nodded, but then he grew quiet. "I'm going back to Earth soon." Ryle looked surprised. "Why?" "I miss my home, my tools, my small workshop. This place is amazing, but I'm just not royalty. I'm just a guy who likes to fix things." Ryle gave him a long look. Then she said, "The Empress knew you'd say that." The next morning, Jake met with the Empress in the garden. She stood beside a glowing tree, its leaves shining with soft gold light. "You wish to leave?" she said calmly. Jake sighed. "Yes, Your Grace. I've had an amazing time here, but I don't belong." The Empress nodded. "I understand, but before you go, I have one final request." Jake raised an eyebrow. "I want you to become the official realm envoy to Earth," she said. "It is not a royal position. It is not about power. It is about trust." Jake looked confused. "What does an envoy do?" "You will speak for us," she explained. "You will help build bridges between humans and Zarnathi. You will answer questions, guide travelers, and sometimes remind both sides what kindness looks like." Jake thought about it. He imagined Earth scientists meeting alien nobles. He imagined teaching Zarnathi visitors how to eat Earth pizza. The idea made him grin. "I can do that," he said. The Empress stepped forward and handed him a small black device. "This is your pass to every world under our star. If any being questions you, this will speak louder than any words." He took it, feeling its warm hum in his hand. Then the Empress knelt, placing a hand over her heart. Jake Carter, Guardian of the Crown, bridge between worlds, trusted human of the realm. The next day, Jake boarded a Zarnathi ship headed for Earth. It wasn't a warship or a royal cruiser. It was a peaceful explorer vessel filled with scientists, scholars, and peaceful traders. Prince Nalu came to the launch deck with the Empress. He held out a soft toy, a small robot shaped like Jake, and pushed it into his arms. Jake chuckled. "You made this?" Nalu nodded. "So I don't forget you." Jake's throat tightened. "You'll never forget me, kid, and I'll never forget you." The Empress gave Jake a final smile. "Our doors will always be open to you." The ship launched, breaking through the sky and entering space. Jake stood by the window watching the stars grow brighter. He had come to this world as a nobody. A stranger, a lost human in a strange galaxy. Now he was leaving as the most trusted human in the realm, and in his heart he knew this was just the beginning.